Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire.
Oh, you're trying to bring me down and run me out of town. You're taking what you want, but you can't take my rhythm now. I'm walking to my own beat, just gonna be me. I'm not replicating nobody.
I was in a conference in San Diego years ago, and I've talked about this to those of you who listen to this regularly. But this one guy came up and he started speaking, and he prayed first, and he said this: Lord, your words in my mouth, not my own, but your words. Now, later I found that came from Scripture, from, I believe it was the book of Isaiah, and particularly, that impressed me more than I don't remember anything else the guy said, but he prayed that. It made incredibly perfect sense to me, because there's only power in when God gives you power. It's amazing what we have and don't have when we think it's us doing it ourselves. But I'm going to talk about rest. My really platform for years and part of starting this podcast was to help get my books out. The Burn book on how to stay in student ministry long term, that came out a while ago, but the rest of the book, it just took me forever to finalize it and say enough, and this is it. But rest is a 4-letter word in America, at least in the United States, I think. If it isn't now, it has been for most of the time I've been alive, and way before that, because basically you worked hard and you didn't get any playtime in America for hundreds of years, and you fought wars and you built businesses and you fought to make the money you could to support your family. We in America, thought the American dream is that you work and build a business and have a family and provide for them. And rest wasn't as much of the equation as just work. And so most of us were brought up with rest as a 4-letter word, not really something that you talked about. You didn't need rest. You just need to simply go to bed and get up early and go to work. So, 4-letter word. But here's part of the book. I'm going to read to you part of this book. And especially I'm talking about this now because I talked to a friend who is going through a lot of health issues. I see it in her face. She works, and she doesn't see an end to the work or how it's going to end. She worries about everybody and everything. And the one thing that she says that everybody else says is, how can I afford that? And we were talking about rest or getting massage therapy and different things to help relieve the stress in your life. My oldest sister is this way too. She takes care of everybody, and we don't have the answers for her either. And she's beyond amazing, but her beyond amazing is hurt her over and over again. And so she's had to have several operations, which I believe, and she and I have discussed it, came directly from the huge amount of stress in her life. That's what happened to me. I had a huge amount of stress that I put on myself because of the work ethic we grew up with, and basically pushed myself into an early heart attack at the age of 49, or in the middle of student ministry, and kept driving even after that. My wife went through several bouts of cancer, doing well now, but those things usually come through stress. Sometimes it can come from other things, but more than not, a lot of our ailments in America, in the United States of America, are from just overworking, overworrying, overachieving, and stress. And we can't give that up, or we can't do this, or we can't afford to rest. We can't afford to get the help that we need because it might cost us too much. When you listen to those words back that you said, sound really silly, because the people who love you the most are going to miss out when you're gone. So Jesus in Matthew 11:28-30 says this: now here's a time when rest really wasn't a thing, but yet God put rest in his people's life all along. And when they stopped listening to him, he would allow other countries to come and take them over and basically force them into rest or force them into extreme circumstances so that they would think about doing things God's ways and not their own. So Jesus says this when he shows up in Matthew 11:28 through 30, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." 29th verse says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now, I've talked about that because I'm going to continue to talk about these verses. I still struggle with rest. I still struggle like everybody else. I have the answers. I find it hard to do what I know to do concerning rest. Why? Because it's not easy. It's simple, but not easy. That's something I learned over the past years, is that most things are simple, but simple is not easy. It becomes a really rather difficult thing. So here's what I wrote in my book in the beginning. True rest is a radical concept. This book could have easily been titled Radical Rest. If you want to radically change your world, you're going to have to radically move and maneuver. But who wants their pilot maneuvering a plane when that pilot is so tired that they can barely focus? Instead, they are maneuvering by repetition and muscle memory, and the fire from passion is gone. Not sure I want that pilot in the pilot seat. Without extreme rest, you cannot be the best version of you that God intended for you to be. So rest up, my friends. Wake up and smell the coffee and smell the roses. See clearly for the first time in years or for some decades. Get back that ability to soar and massively impact your world. Now, that's the opening of my book. And I hope that we will get it published soon enough so you can read it. But if you really want to read it ahead of time, some of you, I'll send you parts of that book. If you email us at youthworkeronfire@gmail.com. I won't send it all to you at one time, but I'll send to you a little at a time if you request it. It's important that you find a way to rest, because unless you rest, you're not going to hear God clearly. Unless you rest, you're not going to hear your children begging you for time clearly, or your wife who's been trying to tell you for years that you can't keep going at the pace you're going, or the husband who's been telling you, his wife, to slow down and focus. I've talked often about looking people in the eyes, especially your loved ones, your children, your wife, or your spouse, people that you care about. Today, I went to a chiropractor. I needed to go for a long time. I went for many years in the beginning of student ministry, actually 6 years after I'd hurt myself in student ministry and moved to another location, and the place I stayed the longest for 29 years. Still in the area, by the way. Chiropractors just really helped me straighten my pain levels out that I didn't even know were possible to straighten out. And so I've been spending time in the gym. I make sure that I go to the gym 5 days a week at least. Sometimes I'll make it 6. And I don't go for long periods of time. I go enough to stretch, hit all the areas I need to hit, stretch again, and leave. I do it quite quickly now. I'm able to do it, and it keeps my body moving on a daily basis. From all the injuries from sports and student ministry activities. Yes, student ministry can be a very painful thing, and you need to take care of yourself. But it took me a long time to get back in the saddle to get that done, because my body was not responding well enough to what was happening in the gym. Some things you still need help with. You can take care of some things by yourself, but not everything. What are those things in your life that you've been putting off because there's not enough time, there's not enough money, you just don't have the time. It's just not important enough yet. How many times have you put that off knowing that your family, your friends, your relationship with God is going to suffer? I tell you this, my friends, do what is best for you first so that you can do what's best for others better. That's what I've got for you today concerning rest and concerning you. So I hope to hear from you about getting parts of that book, and hopefully we'll get it published in the near future. So we'll see you next time on Youth Worker on Fire.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.